Hey everybody, this week on the Inktwell, we're taking a look at an oldie but a goodie. This is Robert Oster, Soda Pop Blue. Helps if I turn that right side up. As is the case with 99.9% of the Robert Oster Signature Series inks, Soda Pop Blue is just an amazing blue ink. Well, okay, 99.9% of the inks aren't blue. Case in point, River of Fire, which is green with a red sheen to it. But you know what I mean. The inks are good. And Robert knows his stuff. I mean, this is a nice, consistent ink with a good blue color and a red sheen that you're going to see later on in the writing sample. And as is the case with all the other Robert Oster inks, by the way, this one comes in the standard 50 milliliter bottle, made in Australia. And it's a plastic bottle, so that's always a good thing if you're clumsy like me and tend to drop things. I'm not going to drop it on the desk this time, but I've done it before. Now, for the writing sample, we used my Carolina Pen Company Charleston model with the number 6 two-tone broad Yovo nib. Good pen and ink combination, can't go wrong with it. And I've actually got it inked up in here right now. So it's, like I said, it's my go-to. I really like it, and it's a good combination with this pen because the red sheen reminds me of the fire in this pen. We are in the Tomoe River Paper Endless Works dot grid notebook. And you can already see some of the properties that make this one of my favorite blue inks. So we've got a nice light blue that you can see here, as well as the B and the CH here in Charleston. You've got some nice deep shading, like where we've got Robert Oster, or the majority of the writing here. The Charleston model here is a very wet pen, so it's going to give you quite a bit of shading. And the fun thing, well, I say fun thing, but the interesting thing is probably the better word for it. With how much shading we're getting here, I would expect the dry time to be a little bit slower, maybe in the 25 to 30 second range. But we're not getting that. We're getting a dry time that is very dry in under 15 seconds. I mean, take a look at that. That is a nice, consistent dry time in under 15 seconds. And that also makes it a really interesting ink if you're going to use it for other purposes as well. Take a look at that crazy amount of red sheen that we're getting here when I tilt the page. That sheen was completely dry in a minute and a half. It took almost 2 days for Schrodinger to dry. I was able to touch that less than 5 minutes after I put it on page, which is amazing. The only reason you're seeing any drops of Soda Pop Blue over there is because, well, I made a mess. But it's not the pen's fault. It's not the ink's fault, because it's a very well-behaved ink that has a lot going for it. You can even see some of that sheen. Well, you might be able to. In the Robert Oster itself, really in the B and the E of Robert is where quite a bit of it comes through. Now let's see if I can get that in focus here for you. Now, another thing I wanted to look at here with this ink is with the different shades itself. So I wanted to try something new with the swab. So we've got a 1 pass, a 2nd pass, a 3rd pass, and a 4th pass. And then directly below the 4th pass, I put another single pass so you could just see the contrast between the two. Like I said, this is a very lovely blue, and the sheen kind of just puts it over the top. It gives it a little bit of character, it gives it a little bit of attitude, and that's something I really like to see in an ink, and that's kind of why this is one of my go-to inks. Now, let's take a look at how it holds up to water, though. And for the water sample, we're breaking out the Rhodia number 16 dot pad and just normal writing sample. By the way, you should really join the Discord if you haven't already. Now let's go ahead and break out the water. All right, so now that we've got that dried up, I mean, let's just be honest. Soda Pop Blue does not have water resistance. I might be able to recover about 40, maybe 50% of that, but that's really because I knew what I had already written on there. It's not necessarily a bad thing that it doesn't hold up to water, but what's keeping it from being a true working ink for me is the fact that I needed to be able to actually hold up on more official documents. And even though it looks cool and it would pass as a nice work-safe blue ink, it just doesn't have that borderline permanence that you need. You can have a little bit of bleed, but this is not a little bit of bleed. That is just the ink giving up. But like I said, it's not a bad thing. It just keeps it from being 100% work. And it also keeps it from being like the top of all blue inks that could be out there with Sheen. We'll take a look at a couple later on, not tonight, but in another video, that have the Sheen and have that water resistance as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk final thoughts for Robert Oster Soda Pop Blue. It's a nice blue. It's a good blue. It's a very well-behaved blue with quite a bit of shading from light to dark. Oh, one other thing. It's also really well-behaved on Tomoe River paper. That's actually a really good, well, lack of show-through. It's there, you can see it, but it's not overbearing. But for an ink where you get good shading, sheen when you want it like crazy, and quick dry time, it has pretty much all of it. If it had the water resistance, it would be flat out amazing. In this case, it's just awesome. Which, awesome is still good. So, head on over to penchalet.com, click on that radio podcast link at the top of the page, and use the code INKDWELL so you can get your own bottle of Soda Pop Blue for 10% off. And the 10% off does apply site-wide, so you can use it on anything you want. And if you go over $50, you do get free shipping, so don't forget that part either. If you liked the video, don't forget to click the like button. If you didn't like it, well, yeah, there's a button there for you too. If this is your first time on the channel, click subscribe. There's new videos coming out. I try to make them weekly. Occasionally I miss a week, but that's few and far between. Also, if you're in the podcasts, check out my podcast, Two Guys, Zero Planners, that I do with Urban Hafner every other week. It's a good stationary podcast. We have a lot of fun, and occasionally there's guests ranging from David Figboot to Brad Dowdy to Mike from Ink Dependence. And while you're down there taking a look at the links, don't forget to follow the channel on Twitter and Instagram. I'm going to go ahead, wrap it up for this week. But till next time, I'll see you later.